Hey, this is Big Three, and I want to bring up a topic today that um, it's kind of touchy, but it's going on right now, and I'm just going to miss being able to vote this upcoming election. I'm turning 18 in April. My friends get to vote though, or most of them do, and it's a topic of Obama or Romney. In the comments below, I'd like you to tell me which one you're voting for, what party you are, whether it be Republican, Democrat, capitalist, independent, Tea Party, or a Green Party as they call them, or something like that. Sorry, I got like pieces of wheat thin stuck in my teeth. Just ate breakfast, but this is the way I think. I personally am a libertarian, and most people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're just a rich kid," blah blah blah. It's like, no, my dad works for S.C. Johnson in a factory. He drives a forklift around. We're not rich. We're actually dead middle class. If you think a fork truck driver in a factory is upper class, then you're kind of off. And my stepmom, she works for the DEQ and makes even less than my dad. The DEQ is a government place. What she does is if someone's spilling toxic waste in their yard or whatever, she writes out a letter to them basically telling them to stop, and she goes and inspects plants and stuff, and she doesn't make a lot of money. She makes less than my dad. And Obama says he's for the middle class, which is us, and we have no other source of income between those two. But we are getting taxed more. I mean, you don't get much more middle class than a factory worker and basically a secretary is her job. Sorry, I keep on doing that. You don't get much more middle class than that. And we're getting taxed. We bring in about, I think after taxes and everything, we bring in about $130,000 a year. So it's not bad. Factory workers actually get paid a decent amount. Middle class jobs get paid a decent amount nowadays. It's just how it is. He makes, I want to say like 20 something dollars an hour. And and on top of that, that's besides the point. On top of that, this is my way of thinking. I just think that the government should just stay out of stuff. And I'm not anarchist or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I still think we should have police. I still think that they should enforce most of the laws. Some of the laws out there kind of stupid, and the government just has no right to be interfering with certain things. But I don't think that the government should interfere with abortion. First of all, I am totally, personally, I'm totally against abortion. I think it is disgusting, repulsive, and you have to have some of the lowest morals to ever do it. But I don't think it's the government's place to say if a girl can or can't have an abortion. I don't think that's their job. They shouldn't control that. That should be up to the person getting the abortion and the doctor that's going to do it. You can't force a doctor to give an abortion. That's not right either. If he doesn't want to give an abortion, he's not comfortable with it, then he shouldn't have to. And on top of that, like other things like welfare. It's one of the most abused things nowadays, and I do not think that we can afford to sit around and pay people to do nothing. I mean, I know a lot of people on welfare. There's some in my family even, and I know way more people that are just sitting there on welfare, not even looking for a job, than there are people on welfare going out and looking for a job. I mean, I know probably one person that's on welfare and is actually looking for a job. And I know probably three or four that are just sitting at home taking the unemployment check because I mean it's just it's free money. It's literally free money. They're just giving you money for sitting there and doing nothing all day. That's that's all it is. I just think that the government's gotten way too strong and it's gotten way too big and it's using too much money. I tell people I think there should be tax cuts all across the board. I don't think that we should just cut taxes for the rich. I think we should cut taxes for the poor. I don't think that the poor should have to really pay any taxes at all. They can't afford it. It's just plain and simple. If they have a job, and stuff and they can barely support their family, then you can't take money away from them. I mean, you don't want them to go homeless and then they probably will lose their job and that's just bad. But I don't think you should tax the rich either because they work really hard for the money. So what you do is you just cut taxes for everyone. But then everyone's like, how the hell are you going to pay for anything? That's the point. You don't. You get rid of a whole bunch of the useless government programs. It's just there's so many government programs out there that use so much money that it's ridiculous. I mean, let me think of a good one. Actually, Okay, the DEQ. This isn't the best example I've ever used, but my stepmom works for this company, so it's really hard for me to attack them. But they hire way more people than they really need to do. I mean, you don't need a team of 5 people and a whole office building working to get a person to stop dumping toxic waste. You probably need 2 people. You need one person to sit in the office, do all the paperwork for that person, and then give them the warning. And you need someone to go out there, which is usually, anyways, we don't use a DAQ person. We use like a DNR officer, or they use a DNR officer. So you really only need a couple people in an office. And the DEQ covers a large area in Michigan, but it doesn't cover the whole thing. And I mean, there isn't like people dumping toxic waste in their yards all the time. Actually, maybe you need 3 people because you need a person to go out and go inspect the buildings. But we're really overspending, and it's just not right. And then there's all this other stuff that the government's funding that we shouldn't be. There's just so many ways to cut taxes. And on top of that, the government officials are getting paid a ridiculous amount for what they do. They're increasing their own, like, their wages and stuff. What other job? Okay, think about it this way, and think honestly. If you could determine your own paycheck, wouldn't you raise it? Wouldn't you be like, oh, I deserve way more than this? Because everyone that's working thinks that they deserve more money for their job, so they're going to be like, oh, I deserve this. Right now, if you could at your work, if all you had to do was sign a paper and then send it out to raise your paycheck, and you wouldn't have any penalties, you wouldn't get in trouble at all for it because it's perfectly legal for them to do this, wouldn't you do it? Well, that's what they're doing right now. So we need to get rid of that. We need to have a set wage for them that raises according to interest. Because I mean, or not interest, but inflation. Because that makes, I don't know, it just makes sense. But I don't think that they should get paid an unreasonable amount. Like when you're getting paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for your job, I mean, they deserve to get a decent paycheck because it's a stressful job. Most of those higher end governmental jobs are pretty stressful, but they don't deserve it. If you look up how much they're making, it's ridiculous. I don't have the exact numbers, but you can go look it up online. It's in the hundreds of thousands. It's pretty intense. And another thing is I don't really like how the United States is considered so evil. Did you know that we have donated more to third world countries in both just raw cash? We've donated more than every other country in the world combined. And on top of that, we've donated more food to third world countries than every other world combined. The United States is like, it's like the world's police. That's what we are. We go around, and if people are in distress and they're being treated unrightfully and having freedoms taken away, we go in there and like, hey, you can't do that. That's what we were doing in Afghanistan, I believe. I think Iraq was because of the Twin Towers, but Afghanistan was the people. Well, that was also for terrorists, but another cause is that we went in there and we got out all the terrorists and we got rid of all the harsh dictators, and so the people could live more freely and not under fear. That's the same thing we were doing in Somalia and Africa. If you've ever watched Black Hawk Down the movie, that's what we were doing over there. We were trying to get rid of the dictators. We try to make the world a better place. Sure, we go out and we start war, but sometimes you need to start war to make things better. If we didn't go over there to Somalia and get rid of that dictator and screw all his crap up, he would still be there making those people miserable. Sure, a lot of blood was shed, but of our own blood and their blood, but their blood that we shed was their enemy soldiers that worked for the dictator. And I mean, yeah, it's bad, but is it really as bad as having people like just murdered for no reason? They go out there, and foreign countries would send in food for them. And then they'd go out there and they would try to take the food, and the dictators would just shoot them if they got even close to the food truck. And that's. I'll make a follow-up video if it's requested, and if anyone has any questions or anything, I can respond to them. If it's a good enough one, I'll make a whole video. But that's about it, and this is Big 3. I'm out.